Duke Shuang of Lu's mother, Wenjiang, was a princess of the state of Qi. She was a major power and a reliable supporter of the much smaller state of Lu. However, when Duke Shuang was still young, his father, Duke Huan of Lu, was murdered in Qi by agents sent by Duke Xiang of Qi, Wenjiang's half-brother by the same father. Because of this, Duke Shuang always harbored deep resentment over the fact that his father was killed in Qi. In 686 BCE, a series of internal upheavals broke out in Qi. Duke Xiang of Qi was assassinated by his cousin Gongsun Wuji, who then usurped the throne. Only a few months later, Gongsun Wuji himself was killed by his former subordinates, plunging Qi into a state of interregnum. At this time, the first in line to the throne, Prince Jiu, the second younger brother of Duke Xiang, fled to Lu to escape the turmoil. His mother was from Lu. He was accompanied by his tutors, the eminent spring and autumn period figures Guanzhong and Xiaohu. Duke Xiang's third younger brother, Prince Xiaobai, was then in the state of Jiu, and his tutor was Bao Shuya, a close friend of Guanzhong. Duke Shuang of Lu was convinced that this was a rare opportunity for Lu to intervene in the internal affairs of the powerful state of Qi. Ignoring the attitude of his mother, Wenjiang, Duke Shuang acted on his own initiative and formed an alliance with a group of Qi ministers who supported the enthronement of Prince Jiu. He then personally led troops to escort Prince Jiu back into Qi. However, human calculations proved inferior to fate, and the outcome took a dramatic turn, greatly disappointing Duke Shuang. For details, see https://youtube.be/d-5zhsmtac. Prince Xiaobai used a ruse to deceive Guanzhong, entered the Qi capital ahead of his rivals, and, with the backing of Qi's high ministers, ascended the throne. He later became Duke Huan of Qi, the foremost of the 5 hegemons of the spring and autumn period. After ascending the throne, Duke Huan of Qi immediately dispatched troops to drive away the Lu forces stationed near the Qi capital. The Lu army suffered a crushing defeat. Taking advantage of the victory, the Qi commander Bao Shuya pressed the pursuit and led Qi forces to the gates of the Lu capital, forcing Lu to execute Prince Jiu and to hand over Guanzhong through a carefully laid plan. Guanzhong was an outstanding statesman. After returning to Qi, he was entrusted with great authority by Duke Huan of Qi and began sweeping reforms of domestic governance. Qi was profoundly transformed and rose to become a superpower in the Central Plains. From that point on, the state of Lu was no longer capable of rivaling Qi. In the spring of 684 BCE, Duke Huan of Qi sent Bao Shuya to lead an army against the state of Lu, throwing the ruler and people of Lu into panic. At this moment, a commoner named Chao Gui requested an audience with Duke Shuang of Lu and volunteered to contribute to the resistance against the Qi forces. His fellow villagers said to him, "Those who hold high office and enjoy generous stipends are already planning matters, why should you get involved?" Chao Gui replied, "Those who hold high office and enjoy generous stipends are short-sighted and incapable of long-term strategic thinking." Chao Gui entered the palace to have an audience with Duke Shuang of Lu and asked him, "On what grounds do you intend to wage war against Qi?" Duke Shuang replied, "As for clothing and food, those things that sustain life, I do not dare enjoy them alone, I always share them with others." Chao Gui responded, "Such minor favors cannot reach everyone. The common people will not follow you because of that." Duke Shuang said, "When it comes to sacrificial oxen, sheep, jade, and silk, I do not dare falsify the numbers, and the prayers recited by the ritual officials always reflect the truth." Chao Gui replied, "Such limited trustworthiness is not enough to win the confidence of the spirits. The gods will not bestow their blessings." Duke Shuang then said, "In cases both large and small, even if I cannot investigate every detail thoroughly, I always judge according to the facts." Chao Gui answered, "That is the fulfillment of your duty. On that basis, you can go to war. If there is to be a battle, please allow me to accompany you." On the day the battle began, Duke Shuang of Lu and Chao Gui rode together in a single war chariot and fought the Qi army at Changshao. When both sides had drawn up their battle formations and Duke Shuang was about to order the beating of the drums to advance, Chao Gui said, "Not yet." Only after the Qi army had beaten its drums 3 times did Chao Gui say, "Now you may beat the drums and advance." Duke Shuang personally struck the drum, and the soldiers of Lu charged forward with great courage, engaging the enemy fiercely. The Qi army suffered a crushing defeat. Duke Xuang then prepared to order the chariots and horses to pursue the retreating Qi forces, but Chao Gui said, "Not yet." He then stepped down from the chariot to examine the wheel tracks left by the Qi army, climbed back up, and, bracing himself against the front rail of the chariot, surveyed the enemy's formation in the distance. Only then did he say, "Now you may pursue." Duke Xuang accordingly commanded the Lu troops to give chase. The Qi soldiers threw down their weapons and fled in panic. The Lu army won a great victory, and Duke Xuang was beside himself with excitement. After winning the battle, Duke Xuang of Lu asked Chao Gui about the reason for their victory. Chao Gui replied, "In warfare, what matters is morale." When the Qi army beat its drums the first time, it roused the soldiers' fighting spirit. With the second beating, their morale began to decline, and by the third beating it was completely exhausted. Their morale had already collapsed, while our army's morale was at its peak at the first beating of the drum. That is why we defeated them. A great state like Qi is hard to judge. I feared they might have laid an ambush. Later, when I saw that the wheel tracks were in disarray and observed that their banners had fallen, I knew they were truly en route. Only then was it safe to pursue them. This is the origin of the Chinese idiom "iguzhua qi," to press forward with one burst of momentum. It is a highly famous and philosophically rich Chinese idiom. The previously unknown Chao Gui became renowned for more than 2,000 years because of this very saying. Lu was a small state, incapable of contending with the superpower Qi over the long term. The victory at the Battle of Changsha could bring Duke Xuang of Lu only a brief period of respite. In 681 BCE, Duke Huan of Qi launched another attack on the state of Lu. By this time, Qi was no longer the chaotic, inefficiently governed state it had been when Duke Huan first ascended the throne. After comprehensive reforms by Guanzhong and diligent efforts at good governance, Qi had been completely transformed into a superpower, economically prosperous, commercially advanced, and militarily strong. Chao Mo, a man from Lu during the spring and autumn period, was known for his great strength and bravery. Duke Xuang of Lu admired him and appointed him as commander to lead the army against the invading Qi forces. However, Chao Mo was defeated in all three battles, losing troops and territory. Ashamed by his repeated failures, Chao Mo voluntarily offered to take responsibility before Duke Xuang. Duke Xuang, however, comforted him, saying that the strength of Qi and Lu is vastly unequal, so this is not a fault of the battle itself. Not only did he refrain from punishing Chao Mo, but he also allowed him to continue serving as the army's commander. In the spring of 681 BCE, after gaining recognition from the Zhou royal court, Duke Huan of Qi, who aimed to dominate the Central Plains, called a meeting of the feudal lords at Beixing in Shandong. At this meeting, his position as the hegemon was formally established for the first time. However, the state of Lu and its vassal, the state of Sui, did not attend the Beixing assembly. Enraged, Duke Huan of Qi sent troops to destroy Sui, and then launched an attack on Lu. The repeatedly defeated Lu, terrified, sought peace and agreed to cede the territory of Sui. Duke Huan accepted their request, and the Qi-Lu assembly was scheduled to be held at Kudot on the day of the assembly. Chao Mo, wearing his treasured sword, accompanied Duke Xuang of Lu to Ku. When they arrived at the earthen altar for the meeting, Qi soldiers stopped Chao Mo and ordered him to remove his sword, but he refused. An argument broke out between the two sides. At that moment, Duke Huan of Qi and Guanzhong had long been waiting atop the high altar and were growing impatient. Unaware of the situation, they gestured for Duke Xuang to hurry up and come onto the altar to sign the covenant. Seizing the opportunity, Chao Mo managed to free himself from the Qi soldiers' interference and followed Duke Xuang onto the altar. Just as Duke Xuang and Duke Huan were about to reach an agreement, Chao Mo, sword in hand, rushed forward and seized Duke Huan of Qi. The attendants around Duke Huan, fearing harm to their lord, did not dare to act. Duke Huan asked, "What do you want?" Chao Mo replied, "Qi is strong and Lu is weak. You have relied on your strength to bully the weak, seizing Lu's territory. It is far too much. Now the capital of Lu lies right on the border of Qi, and you still wish to take more. Great king, what do you think should be done?" Duke Huan was speechless and, pressed, was forced to agree to return all the lands he had seized from Lu. After receiving this promise, Cao Mo sheathed his sword, stepped down from the altar, faced north to stand where the ministers should stand, and showed no change in expression, speaking and acting as if nothing had happened. Afterwards, Duke Huan of Qi was furious and wanted to go back on his word. Guanzhong advised him, in a situation like this, anyone could renege, but your majesty cannot. As the hegemon, you must never break your promises to the world. Following this counsel, Duke Huan returned the cities he had seized from Lu to the state of Lu. Cao Mo recovered all the cities that Lu had lost in its 3 battles, erasing the shame of repeated defeats, lost troops, and lost territory. He was later hailed as the first assassin in Chinese history. Keep your word and act decisively. When the news spread that Duke Huan of Qi had honored his promise and returned the lands to Lu, all the feudal lords were impressed by his magnanimity and character. From then on, Duke Huan repeatedly convened assemblies of the various states to uphold the dignity of the Zhou royal house, prevent wars among the states, and promote peace and development in the Central Plains. He ultimately became the first hegemon of the spring and autumn period and one of the rare wise and virtuous rulers in Chinese history.